super
I
enthused
am.
to talk NBA basketball with, I guess he's the guru. I guess he's the whisperer when it comes to specifically enough what analytics are. Kirk Goldsberry. Kirk, thanks for stopping by. You're the author of Sprawl Ball and one of the leading experts in basketball analytics. And what did you play basketball, Kirk, ever?
Of course, I played up through high school, and I still play a little bit. It is, in my estimation, the greatest game that human beings have ever concocted. I know not everybody feels that way, Neil, but I love to play it. I love to watch it, and I just think it's one of the best things on the planet.
Well, I'm thinking of getting involved in the senior games. I'm 51 and I can start the senior games, go figure, right? And play some basketball. I'm getting back in shape to make a comeback into professional wrestling at 51. So if I'm getting in this great shape using DDP yoga and stuff, it's time for me to do some basketball. I was playing with my kids and I was shooting half court and shooting all these outside shots after I got my legs going. But now with this yoga, oh my, I can't wait to start playing some hoops when it warms up more and more in Pittsburgh. I know it's already warm in Austin. I was in Texas for 2 years, so understand completely the layout of it's time to hit the courts.
Yeah.
It is, dude, and a lot of people are playing pickleball now. But let's get some more hoops back onto those playgrounds.
Oh not pickleball. Go ahead, share with your question.
Yeah. Hi, Kirk. It's really great to have you on the show and to talk with you. And you've written this book called Hoop Atlas Mapping the Remarkable Transformation of the Modern NBA. So tell us about that book.
Yeah, this book is sort of my love letter to the modern NBA, which I contend begins with Michael Jordan in the 1990s. And Sherry, to be honest, sort of the dominant characteristic of pro basketball, in my opinion, over the last 30 years is this metamorphosis, this drastic transformation of gameplay and what the sport looks like when we turn on the playoffs. When we were watching Michael win those 6 championships, it was almost like a different sport than watching Stephen Curry win his championships or Nikola Jokic win his championships in the 2020s. So what I tried to do with Hoop Atlas was map out how the game has changed and, most important, who changed it. And so this is a bunch of essays looking at the most influential superstars and how they contributed to this sort of incredible metamorphosis we've seen in pro basketball in the last 30 years.
It's changed so much, but I'm still mad at my coaches. I'm going to go back to my coaches in high school and say, you at 6'10, get inside. And I'm like, I could shoot the ball from outside. I hit a 3-pointer off of a former Harlem Globetrotter, uh, uh, Orlando Antigua, when I was playing in summer leagues. I mean, in leagues before, was hitting threes, loved to go outside, liked to shoot the ball from the outside, didn't want to stay always inside. The game has just changed so much. And I have a feeling I know why Nikola has been killing it. The Joker, because of the bottom line. I'm a huge Denver Nuggets fan. That the reason why is because of I guess, the European transformation of how basketball is played.
Yeah, the European story, and we have a whole chapter in the globalization of basketball, which the epicenter of that is in Europe. And simply put, Neil, your position group, the big man, they're building better big men in Europe than we are in the United States. If you look at the top big men in the NBA, almost all of them are from overseas. I think Nikola Jokic and Victor Wembanyama also sort of prove that they're not just giant human beings that get rebounds and block shots. They dribble, they pass, and they shoot. And your story about your coach not letting you shoot, I wish I'd never heard that before, but I've heard it from NBA players. Chris Bosh, who helped with this book, one of the most talented athletic big men in the 2010s, was told not to shoot threes his whole NBA career until the very end by NBA coaches, even though he was an incredible jump shooter. So it took a while for Americans to warm up to the fact that anybody should be shooting threes, but even longer for the idea that our biggest players could dribble, pass, and shoot from the perimeter as well. And in fact, that's the template for the modern offense in the 2020s, is having big men stretch the floor and open up the driving corridors for everybody on their team.
Yeah, when in the 2010s, I would go ahead and play in these men's basketball leagues, and I would rebound the ball and go full court. dribble, shoot, drive, do all those different things. I didn't care. And when I would do like even on the playgrounds, get a rebound, dribble all the way down, dunk the ball, come back. Forget, getting it to the point guard, right?
Does. Yeah, yeah. And that's what LeBron James became. I mean, if LeBron James grew up in the wrong area or the wrong coaching environment, they would have just taught him to post up and play off the blocks. And fortunately for him and the rest of the world, like, he became a playmaking perimeter star that would drive the ball and didn't back down defenders as much as he faced them up. And players like Magic Johnson, like, he was 6'9" and one of the greatest point guards the game has ever seen. I mean, people have been challenging this conventional wisdom, thankfully, for 30 or 40 years, but it's never been this pronounced. And you have a guy like Victor Wembanyama, the 20-year-old center for the Spurs, who is 7'4" and shooting step-back threes on one end and blocking 5 shots a game on the other. And that's the future. Big men are back. They're just shooting threes and playing more versatile basketball than we've ever seen before.
At least big men are back in basketball. They're not back in professional wrestling, like AEW, as Hulk Hogan says. These guys would bag my groceries. I will say the same deal. But go ahead, Sherry. Go ahead, Sherry, with your next question.
Well, I too like basketball, and I love books. I am from the book world, and so you have this Hoop Atlas, and I always am curious, like, how do people come up with their titles? How did you come up with this title of Hoop Atlas?
Well, it's a great story, a great question. So I used to be a geography professor at Harvard and Michigan State universities, and so I have a background in map making and geography. And my sort of claim to fame in basketball journalism is bringing maps of the court and shot charts to people. And if you look at my social media, that's what I'm known for. But there's another thing happening with that title too, Sherry. And the thesis of this book is that the best players in the world don't just dominate the basketball world, they carry it to a new place. And it's sort of a play on words on the Greek titan Atlas, who was condemned to carry the world, or the celestial spheres. And so I argue that Michael Jordan was the Atlas of the NBA. Not only was he a titan, but he changed basketball. He brought us into a new era. And some of the other greatest players of all time, Steph and Curry, didn't just dominate the NBA. They carried it to a new reality. And to me, that's a true mark of greatness. And the title Hoop Atlas of this book is a play on my geographic background and this idea that the best players in the world not only win championships, but carry the basketball world in a new direction.
So, Kirk, when you were a consultant with the Spurs, is it almost like the people that hire people for baseball to be the numbers people so that the managers can make the right calls?
Yeah, I mean, I was a full-time vice president of strategy at the Spurs. I built the analytics group up in San Antonio in the 2010s as basketball analytics really got serious. And yeah, man, we stole almost everything from baseball. In fact, we would go visit the Dodgers or the Indians, and they would help us understand best practices because they had been using numbers and statistics to drive decisions and strategies way before pro basketball had. So it was an incredible time, and sort of whether you like it or not, that time in the 2010s where numbers infiltrated basketball is the point where the game changed the most in the shortest amount of time, for better or for worse. That was a remarkable time in pro basketball.
Well, when you were at the Spurs, that was the time when there was such team ball, right? It wasn't one person scoring a bunch of points. It was passing, it was getting it to the right person, and it was a team, right?
Yeah, I think Greg Popovich, Steve Kerr, LeBron James really dominated the period of the 2010s, in part because they learned how to make basketball teams sort of greater than the sum of the individual parts, and ball movement and passing was a huge part of that, Neil. And it's still there, but you're sort of putting your finger on something very important in the rise of what heliocentric basketball in the 2020s, which is a fancy way of saying ball hog from back in the day. And some of these NBA offenses now are just giving the ball to their best player over and over and over again, sort of spamming these actions. I would not accuse your beloved Denver Nuggets of doing that. In fact, I feel like Nikola Jokic is a nice extension of that Warriors or Popovich mentality
Oh,
of
yeah.
San Antonio.
I
Where
love
passes
watching
are-
the team ball they
how-
play. I love it.
You know
So
what? This is my favorite Jokic quote, and it's in the book and the chapter about him, Neil, and you'll love it. He says he likes assisting baskets more than scoring baskets because assists make two people happy, not just one. And I think that's the best thing about basketball is a dime to a shooter who makes a shot. Two people are happy. That's the ultimate teamwork.
Well, we appreciate it. Clay Mosier is
Yeah.
one of my clients, and he coached at assistant coach of the LA Lakers. I don't know if you ever ran into Clay. He's been around all over, and you mentioned Steve Kerr. Appreciate again, Kirk, for stopping by, and we can pick up the book in all finer bookstores. Look at again also at independent bookstores. Kirk, I appreciate it, man.
May
Thanks for
7th.
stopping by.
May 7th, right, Kirk?
May
Thank you,
7th.
Neil.
All right,
Thank you,
thanks,
Sherry.
guys. All right,
Thank you.
you're listening and watching the Neil Haley